Hi there, welcome back to the Helen Olivia virtual workshops. My name is Lindsay, I am the lead designer here and I am going to be instructing you through this virtual ranunculus class. So we are going to be designing an arrangement that is focused around the ranunculus flower. So we've got a few different varieties of ranunculus that we're going to incorporate into our arrangements, and we've got a really beautiful purpley pink mix that we're going to be designing with tonight. Take this class at your own pace. So if I'm moving too fast, since it is pre-recorded, please feel free to pause and take as much time, rewind as you need. I know it can be hard to follow along doing it virtually, so definitely hit that pause button if you need it. We are designing in our cute little pink ceramic cubes, and we have already provided chicken wire and it is tucked inside of your vase. So we've got a piece of chicken wire, which is what we're going to design with. The only thing that you're going to need for this class are a pair of floral clippers, a sharp pair of kitchen scissors, or a small paring knife. If you only have one tool and if you have a floral clipper, I would highly suggest just using that. I might be switching off between a floral knife and clippers because that's what I'm used to, but really you just need one good pair of clippers or a sharp pair of kitchen scissors. And you should have had your vase and your little recipe sheet in your bag, and that will tell you all the ingredients that you received when you either picked up your bucket or got it delivered from us. And that way you can follow along with the items that I'm using. I'm gonna actually move my table up a little bit. And that way you can see me a little better and we will go ahead and get started. So the thing I need you to do that we have not done for you is fill your vases up with water. Room temperature water is great, or on the little bit chillier side. We don't want anything too warm because the flowers will open up really quickly, but we don't want anything too cold because it will shock the flowers. So right in the middle, somewhere around room temperature is perfect. And we want to fill our vases up to almost the top. So I like to leave about an inch of space, maybe less, because the stems will, make the water level rise and you might get some spillage. So just be mindful of that. If you're designing at home, have a towel handy if you spill anything. As we're going, these buckets are super full and things do get tangled. So as you're pulling stuff out, be patient with yourself, try to untangle things, and don't pull too hard on the stems when we're getting things out of our bucket. These are super full buckets, but there is always a chance that something is going to break. That is why we have so much product for you in these buckets, because your arrangement will still look incredible if you have one broken stem. So if anything happens to any of your flowers, just know that there is plenty of product to fill this vase and make a beautiful arrangement. If for some reason you have like an extremely damaged bucket or anything like that happens, you can definitely reach out to us, give us a call, or shoot us an email, and we'd be happy to look at it with you. So let's go ahead and get started. You should have those vases filled up with water now, and we're gonna grab our mini green hydrangea. So this is your mini green hydrangea. We use this in every single retail arrangement that we do at Helen Olivia. It's a great little filler for around the base of your arrangement. So when we're pulling out our mini green hydrangea, we should have 4 of them. So once you get those, we're gonna clean them up. You're gonna hear me say this a lot, but we're gonna remove any of the low-lying leaves. Low-lying leaves are any of the leaves that aren't hugging the flower at the top. So hydrangea leaves are really beautiful. We wanna leave some of them on because they are kind of the prettiest part of this. And anything that's low or might end up in your water when you're placing it in your arrangement needs to come off. So you can pull it right off, or you can clip it off, whatever you're comfortable with. So we're gonna do that with all of ours and get them ready to go into our vase. So we just want all the stems that we're putting into our arrangement for this class nice and clean. When we've got clean stems, that means your arrangement is probably gonna last a little longer because it won't be growing a bunch of bacteria in there if you've got really clean stems when they're going into the vase. Now that you've cleaned those up, we are gonna give them a cut and place them. So a really nice tool to use is use your vase as a measuring tool. And this will kind of help you with those first few cuts. You always want to measure laying your product across your vase, because everything that we're placing in our arrangements tonight, we're angling in towards the center. We're not placing anything straight up and down. Everything will go in at an angle as we're adding. So for these 4 hydrangea, we're going to place them on all 4 corners of this vase. So we want them to be touching the vase, pretty much resting right on the lip of the vase. And you also want it to be tucked in pretty close to the vase, because if you stick them out like that, it starts to look really leggy. So you want them to be nice and tucked in, and we'll build the flowers around it. So we're gonna put 1 at each corner. And remember, you can always trim your flowers down more if you've left them too long, but you can't make them grow back. So make sure that you're being on the conservative side when you're trimming things or cutting things for the first time if you haven't designed before, and then you'll get used to the length as we go. So I have got my 4 hydrangea placed around the side of my vase, so that is our first step done. The next thing that I want you to grab are your viburnum tinus buds. So these are viburnum tinus or viburnum brown buds. And this we're using as a greenery. It is part of the viburnum family, similar to snowball viburnum, etc. So we are using this to green up our vase. When we're greening up, we're doing a combination of hydrangea and different greeneries to make our size and scale. So when we're cutting our greenery apart, if we've got a nice leggy piece like this, we've got longer offshoots that we can cut off and use separately. So I'm gonna cut this up, but be mindful that if you're cutting your viburnum tinus up, the offshoots need to be as tall or taller than your vase in order to use them. Every single stem that we're putting into our vase needs to be as close to the bottom of the vase as possible, so it's got the best chance of surviving as your arrangement ages. So once you kind of cut your piece apart, you might have a big chunk or you might have a couple smaller pieces, then we're gonna get these stems nice and clean. So same goes with the hydrangea. We want those stems to be nice and clear of any leaves or buds. So I like to do this all in stages. So I'm gonna clean these up and set them aside. Anything like this short is too small because it's gonna get sunken right down into the arrangement, so we can't use that, unfortunately. So clean these guys up, get a nice little pile of stems that are ready to go in. And once we've got that done, we can start adding these to our arrangement. So when we're greening up, we are building that size out, that shape out. So you can leave stems longer if you want your arrangement to be larger and a little more wild and whimsical, or you can keep it a little more conservative and just keep things nice and tight and rounded like our signature style. So when we're placing these viburnum tinus, we always want to give a nice fresh angled cut to everything, which I forgot to mention with the hydrangea, but every single thing that we put into our arrangement, we want to have a nice 45-degree angled cut on our stems because it gives them the most surface area possible to drink water through. So if they've got this angled cut, they are going to be thriving in your arrangement. With our viburnum tinus, we're just going to be placing it in between our mini green. So anywhere there's a gap between our mini green, we want to place it nice and low around the perimeter first and start to fill those gaps at the base. And then we're going to build up a little bit higher and start filling the center as well. So I've got 4 little bits around in between my mini green, and then from there I'm going to start adding a little bit of height. So hopefully you can see that all right. Still going to come a little closer. There we go. And with these last couple pieces I've got, again, just giving a nice little trim And I love the texture of this, so we want to let it stick out. We don't want it to be too hidden once we get everything else in. So those are my little bits of viburnum placed in our arrangement. We don't have a ton of greenery we're working with today, so the next thing that we're grabbing is our purple acacia. You should just have a couple or a few little pieces of this, or you might have like one nice stem that has a few offshoots. If you have a stem that's got a few offshoots, you can cut them up if they're longer than your vase. But if they're not, and you've just got single stems like I do, we basically just have to strip the bottom of these and cut them so we can place them in our arrangement. So with acacia, we want these stems nice and clean. They've got tons of teeny tiny little leaves. So get those nice and clean, and then we're gonna place these into our arrangement. This is just a really dark, beautiful dark purple tone. This is our purple acacia, and for this is just gonna give us kind of a cool contrasting element. I've only got 3 pieces to incorporate here, so I'm gonna place one a little low, down in between some mini green, one a little higher, so I get that dark tone up top, and then one on the opposite side. Whenever we have 3, I like to group 2 together and 1 together, and you can see a little better when I step to the side. So that's kind of built out our shape a little bit more. And then I want you to grab your umbrella fern. So our umbrella fern is really fun to work with, but it can also be tricky if you've never used it before because it can come in really large. So I've got one that's quite a bit larger and one that's quite a bit smaller. This one I'm actually going to be able to break up potentially. So when we're breaking up umbrella fern, we can take little offshoots off. And then when we do that, we have to clean all these little bits of leaves off the stem because anything that's going into your arrangement needs to be clean. So since that one is a short piece, I've got to tuck it down low near the base. And then for any of the other pieces, you want to leave that woody stem on. And then you want to, I like to always pinch the umbrella fern so you can kind of see how it's gonna lay. Give it a nice fresh cut, and then I'm placing mine angled down towards the center of our arrangement, and it just lays out really beautifully. So you kind of get that spray of texture on all sides and that bright green. So I've got that piece there, and then I've got the other piece on the opposite side. So since we have 2, I'm gonna try to do just a little opposite here. I've got some splayed out down here, and then I've got some a little higher on this side. So those are our umbrella ferns placed, and it's kind of creating a nest for everything else to sit into. Once you get your umbrella ferns figured out, which again can be tricky, sometimes you might have it hanging out a little too high. You don't want to be able to see that woody stem unless you like the look of that, which is totally fine. But I like to keep mine nice and tucked so it's really giving us a spray of greenery. Once you place that, I want you to grab your unripened blackberry, which looks like this. So grab your unripened blackberry, and same goes for everything else we've put into our arrangement so far. We want nice clean stems. So with the unripened blackberry, any of the lower leaves can come off, and any of the little damaged berries you can clip right off. So any lower berries or lower leaves, like any of these berries down here, because you really just want that nice little cluster at the top. Once you've gotten those cleaned up and ready to go into the arrangement, we're going to place them. So with this, it's just a really pretty textural element, and we want to just disperse them throughout our arrangement. Again, we've got 3 of this. We always like to use odd numbers, and we are going to spread those around. You can either do a cluster of them if you would like. You can do 2 on one side, 1 on the other. I am gonna do one kind of on each side because I want that little bit of texture everywhere. So I've got one here, I've got one here, and I've got one here. So really spreading that texture out. And if you're looking down at your arrangement and you're thinking, wow, I've still got a hole I need to fill, that is okay because we've got a lot of flowers to fill it. So the next thing that I want you to pull out of your bucket are your ocean song roses. Your ocean song roses are the lavender, I've got a broken stem. So get those lavender roses. Be careful not to tug because ranunculus stems can break really easily. There we go. So those are our ocean songs. And for all of our roses, our ocean songs are a beautiful lavender tone. For all of our roses, we want to clean them. So when we're cleaning roses, we want to strip off all of the leaves, which you can just pull off. We want to remove any thorns, which ocean songs tend to not have many thorns, which is great. And then we want to remove any of the damaged guard petals. So any of the outer petals that look sad or beat up, we're just gonna pull those off completely. We're not gonna pull the green things off, we're just gonna pull the outer petals off. So I'm just gonna remove a few that look damaged, and then that's our nice and clean rose ready to go in. So let's go ahead and do that with all of these ocean songs. And then we're gonna grab our next color rose. We're gonna get those cleaned too. All right, so I've got mine nice and clean over here. And then I'm gonna pull out my ascot roses. Ascots are these roses. They're like a dark pinky, purpley hue, and they've got these almost pointed petals. They're a really cool shape. So that's what you're gonna pull out of your bucket next. And with our ascot roses, they do have thorns, so be mindful of that as you're cleaning these. If you're cleaning off roses and you don't have gloves or you're worried about the thorns, there's a couple different ways you can remove them. So you can either, if you're using a knife, you can place your flower stem directly on the table and then gently scrape down the sides of the stem, and that way it will clear off any of those thorns. The other thing you can do is press on the thorn, press your thumb right against the flat side of the thorn, and it will pop right off. So with all of our ascots, we're going to remove all those leaves, any damaged petals. And with an ascot and an ocean song, they are on the smaller side, so if you don't have any really damaged outer petals, I like to leave most of the petals intact so they get a bigger shape. And these will open up really beautifully too. All right, so we've got 9 roses that are ready to go in. So when we're placing roses, I always like to place duos or trios. It's just the easiest way, most foolproof way to design an arrangement is to design in pairs or in trios. It's just very visually pleasing. So when we're designing in pairs or trios, we always want to stagger things diagonally. We never want to put things right on top or right to the side of each other, or it will stand out in your arrangement. So when you've staggered things and kind of grouped them, it looks a little more naturally occurring if you've diagonally staggered them. So that's what we're going to do. Since we've got 5 of the ocean songs, I'm going to start by placing those. When we're placing them, we want a nice sharp angled cut, and I always like to place low first, so as close to your vase as possible, and then build up from there. So since we're starting to try to fill that hole, I want to go up high as well. So I'm placing one up top, and I've already broken my own rule. There we go, that's a little staggered. And then I'm gonna come in with a third of the ascot, so a different color to break that up, and we've got our first little trio placed. So now that we've got that placed, we can move on to our next side. So place that on one side, and then I'm gonna turn my arrangement. So same thing goes over here. I'm gonna start this one with an Ocean Song low, so a lavender, and then I'm gonna put one a little higher. Like that. This one's a little hidden by that, but there you go. And then we're gonna go with the third, that's an ascot. So ascot is paired in there. So that is our next trio. And then we've got 4 more roses, so I'm gonna do 2 duos. So I've got this gap between my roses, and I wanna break up this purple, this lavender with the darker ascot. So I'm gonna put my ascot nice and low, nestled in there. Again, we're giving everything an angled cut as we place it. And then we are staggering stem length, so it also looks really nice to leave some a little longer, leave some a little shorter, just looks a little more garden style. And then we are cutting at an angle and placing. So when we're placing, we want those stems to be as long or as tall as the vase or as tall as the arrangement. So as we're going, your stems are getting longer because the arrangement is getting bigger as we're adding more elements in. And again, if you place something and you don't like the look of it and you want to move it, you can totally do that. I'm going to kind of finesse the placement of my roses, and I've got a blackberry that's a little bit too long. And that is in there. Some of my roses could use a trim. Since they're not large roses, the 2 varieties that we've got, we need to use them really strategically to fill the gaps. So there we go. It's starting to take shape. And again, I'm gonna move one more because can be a bit of a perfectionist. So that is our full-size roses in. The next thing that we are going to place is our garden rose. We've got a gorgeous Ella garden rose. It's this buttery yellow color. And same goes for the Ella as for your regular roses. You want to remove any leaves and any thorns off of the stem, and then we want to pull off any damaged petals. But with a garden rose, you can kind of hurt the integrity of the rose if you pull too many garden petals off. So just be really delicate and only take off a couple if you have any that are damaged. This will open up really beautifully, and I'm blowing on them occasionally because that kind of helps them open up. So with our garden rose, we're going to pick a spot to nestle this in between some of our purple roses. This is just a really pretty springy kind of contrasting element. And I just love the color of them, so I think that's going to be so nice. So there is our Ella mixed in with the purples. It looks really pretty. The next thing that we're going to grab are our Charlotte Japanese ranunculus. These are my favorite ranunculus. They are so cool. They are very fancy. They're a Japanese variety, and you have, I think, two of them. So grab these beautiful guys, and we're gonna place these. So these are on the larger side. So these will fill any gaps quite nicely. And we'll just break up the purples and get a pop of pink in there. So With these, I kind of want to place them together because they're so stunning. I want to make a little moment. So I am going to tuck them in kind of nearby each other. So we have a little queen ranunculus moment. And since I've tucked them, I'm gonna tip this so you can kind of see it. But since I've tucked them together, decided to put them together, they need to be staggered a little bit. So stagger that height. And I'm actually gonna move this one back a little more. There we go. So I've placed my two ranunculus, the first of many ranunculus varieties. The next ones that I want you to find are these cool kind of bicolor purple ones. They are the lighter of the purple in your bucket. So these are called an Antoine Clooney ranunculus. They are a variety of a Clooney, which is a really premium ranunculus, and they are beautiful. With ranunculus, you can delicately remove any damaged petals, but you have to be really sparing about it. So only if they look in really bad shape are we gonna pull them off. Otherwise, your whole ranunculus will just crumble. So the beauty of a ranunculus is it gets really ruffly and some of them fold back, and that's okay. We just want to make sure that we hold the integrity of the flower together. So just be really gentle if you're pulling off any of those outer petals. So with our Clooney Antoine, we're going to place these guys. So I am going to intersperse these with our other blooms that we've got in here. And since we only have two, I'm going to put one on either side. So I've got one on this side, and then I'm going to put one over here, which I think is becoming the front because it has my Ella Garden Rose and my gorgeous Charlotte Ranunculus. The other really fun thing about ranunculus is that they float really nicely in an arrangement. They like to float out of an arrangement a little bit, so definitely play with the heights as we're adding more of these in and the lengths of your stems. The next ranunculus that we're going to grab are our plum ranunculus. You should have three. I accidentally broke one while I was pulling other things out of my bucket, but go ahead and grab these. These are some of my favorite. The plum ranunculus is just so stunning. So same goes with these. If you have any really damaged petals, pull those off. Otherwise, it's the beauty of the flower. Sometimes they curl back a little bit, but it still looks stunning. So I'm gonna leave it as is because I know it'll have a better chance of surviving if I leave all those good little petals on. And with our plum, it's like a little dark and moody moment. So I want them to like stick out a little bit and be kind of the center of attention. And if you are placing things in as it's getting a little tighter in there and you're noticing a lot of resistance from the chicken wire, pull it out and try it in another place because you can really easily split ranunculus stems if you hit chicken wire too hard. So if you feel resistance, pull it out, try elsewhere. The next thing that I want you to grab once you've placed your plum ranunculus, which I'll just pretend this one's not broken. We'll stick it over there like it's fine. And I want you to grab the lavender scabiosa. So this is your lavender scabiosa. They are the fluffiest guys that we got in this week. Very excited to use these. Scabiosa are also another element that kind of likes to dance above things, but they also are prone to having really bent stems. So when they have a really bent stem like this at the top, you kind of want to tuck it in a little more so it can be supported by something else. So with the scabiosa, I love that contrasting purple. We're gonna give these a nice cut. Again, you can still be using that vase as a measuring tool. And since we've got 3, I'm going to disperse these all around the arrangement, 1 on each side. Every side will get a little hint of that lavender, just like a blue toned lavender from these scabiosa that we've got. There you go. It's just a really beautiful color palette. And I'm just adjusting some ranunculus so they're facing the way I want them to be facing. All right, so now that we've placed those scabiosa, we are going to grab our final ranunculus for this class. So our final ranunculus is a cappuccino ranunc, and a cappuccino ranunculus is one of my favorite because they always look very different. There's also all different kind of varieties that you see, or variations that you see within one pack. So when we're ordering a cappuccino ranunculus pack, you will get all different colors. So these are all cappuccino ranunculus. They are pink and white and purpley hued, and they are different colors. So normally they are bicolored, and they have the little pink edges on most of them, pink or purpley edges. So this is what you're looking for in your bucket. They're probably gonna look different than mine, but they're just really unique and beautiful. So this is our little last touch. And with any ranunculus that have buds on it, like these do, which goes for your other ones, I didn't have any, so I didn't even mention it. I forgot to. If you have any little buds, you need to pull these off, because again, we need those stems to be nice and clean. So any of these little buds, gently pull those off. If you have any buds that are quite close to the flower, you can leave it on because it will potentially bloom, so that's exciting. And it's just a nice, fun little whimsical element. So if any are kind of close up top here, you can definitely leave those attached. If you don't like the look of it, you can pull it off. And if it's long enough to use on its own, then you can cut it and use it separately. So with all of these final little ranunculus for this ranunculus class, I'm gonna get cleaned up and then we can place them. We are gonna make nice, sharp, angled cuts as we've been doing with everything. And this arrangement has such a pretty mix of all different purple and pink hues. So anywhere you feel like you've got a lot of purple, anywhere you feel like you've got a lot of pink, use something else. So I've got a lot of purple over on this side, so I'm gonna break it up with this light pink one. I'm actually gonna do this one. This little light pink one. Place that there. I'm going to trim this. It's looking so pretty. And then we've got our last two that I am going to place. So one right there, and then I still have a little bit of a hole right nearby. So again, we're just using these last few blooms to fill any gaps. It starts to get really tight in that chicken wire, but it will hold everything in place really, really well. So if you feel like you need to tweak anything, pull anything out, trim anything, you can do that now. Now that we've placed all of our floral elements, this is our finished product for this class. I wish you could see it a little more close up. There we go. I'm gonna spill, but it's worth it. So I'll show you, that is my finished arrangement. And since I've just spilled on the ground, I'll talk about watering your arrangements. We wanna make sure that we're adding fresh water to our arrangements daily. And then come this weekend, Friday, probably, or a couple days after anytime you've arranged flowers, you should give it a full water change. And with a full water change, you can run your arrangement under the faucet. So leave it in the sink, lightly run the faucet over the arrangement, and it will eventually displace the old water and new will be there. The other thing you can do, since we have designed in chicken wire, is remove your whole arrangement from the vase. It will stay together, and then you can dump the water, add fresh, and that will give it a proper water change. If you have someone else at home with you, or you're designing this class with someone else, you guys can help each other water change at the end of class. You'll notice already how much little debris and things that you've gotten in it just from arranging. So definitely give it a change on Friday or in a couple days, and it should stay happy. Once you have pulled it out of your arrangement, you just pop it back in. Again, that is the beauty of chicken wire. It will hold everything really steady. And that is our completed arrangement. So make any last tweaks if you want. And then it's a beautiful little garden style ranunculus heavy arrangement. It's one of my favorite flowers. I hope it's one of yours too. And I hope you enjoyed this workshop. Thanks so much for joining us. We'd love to see you in a future class in person or in one of our few virtual classes. You can always pick up a bucket or have it delivered. Thank you for following along, and we appreciate your support of our workshop program. Take care.